I'm going to cover the steps required to integrate FastAPI with Flet, which is a Python frontend. The goal is to have a single FastAPI instance for both the Flet and the FastAPI application. Flet already comes with FastAPI, but we're going to take a different approach and mount the Flet app into the FastAPI application. There are 6 steps. The first is to set up the FastAPI app. Then we have to set up the Flet app. We're going to use the Python Async context manager to start the Flet app and handle the shutdown. We're then going to register the Flet lifespan context with FastAPI using the FastAPI router.lifespan_context. We'll mount the Flet app on the FastAPI route with FastAPI mount, and we'll start the application with FastAPI ASGI Uvicorn, which will also automatically mount and run the Flet app. I'm using UV, not pip, for this tutorial. I'm going to init with Python 3.13, and we'll call it FastAPI Flet tutorial. I'm going to change directory into the thing that UV just created. I'm going to add a number of packages. UV add FastAPI Flet CLI Flet desktop Flet web HTTPX, which we'll use to make the HTTP connection to the FastAPI backend Uvicorn. All right, our first step is to set up the FastAPI application. So we'll go into main.py. Initially, we'll just delete everything, so it'll be a blank screen. We can learn line by line. From FastAPI, import FastAPI. Great. We now have FastAPI. We're going to start a FastAPI application, which is going to serve up the API. So we'll call our FastAPI application API and not app right now. So this API is just this. So this decorator for FastAPI, if you're not familiar with, it's an instantiation of FastAPI. And then we're going to use the get protocol, and we'll set up the endpoint. And I'll set it up as API hello. This is the route that we'll use to access the data for FastAPI. As you know, it's async by default, hello. And then we will return a message, which will be JSON. We'll have message hello from FastAPI backend for Flet. Okay, this is our FastAPI application so far. Let's start out with Uvicorn. And it's the name of the file, which is main, and the name of the instantiated version of FastAPI, which we're calling API here. So let's open up a browser and go to this local host. So we can see that it's this, but if we control click on it, it won't be there's no endpoint, right? Because we've specified the endpoint as /API/hello. /API/hello. And this is our data right here. Okay, we've set up the FastAPI application. It's minimal right now, but it is delivering to a endpoint the action that we want. We can build it up in the future. Next step is to set up the Flet application. So we'll go to the top of our app and we'll import Flet as FT. Maybe we'll put a little comment here. Import Flet for building the UI. Import Fast API for creating web API and logic. We'll go async def main page ft.page. And we can test the Flet front end. I just do ft.run main. At this point, they're completely unconnected. We can go flet main.py and we can test it right there. And even make the size a little bit easier to see. Or maybe test out the backend and change it with colors or something. Okay, we've completed 2 of these 6 steps. Congratulations. I'm gonna comment this out because let's say that you've got all your styling for it, you've tested it independently, it looks how you want it to look, but now we need to connect it, right? So we have to set up the async context manager. Import the async context manager decorator from context lib for setup and teardown or shutdown. Okay, so it's just from context lib import async context manager. Okay, so we'll just add it in down here. We don't need to test the Flet anymore. We'll test it directly with FastAPI now. We use the decorator, so we just import it. Async context manager, and we'll set up a function, asynchronous function, lifespan, which will receive the app, which will be FastAPI. And we need to import Flet FastAPI. Right. So Flet has Flat.FastAPI, which helps with integration with FastAPI. So specifically made to do this. So now we can await that we just imported it. So we imported it as Flat FastAPI. And then there's built into it, there's an app manager just from Flet. And then there's a way to start it, just called start. So we're going to start it, and then we're using the yield as a separator between the start and the stop. So it's going to run the code at this point from Flet. Then we will await. And then we will shut it down. We have completed step 3, which is setting up the async context manager. We're going to be on to step 4. We're halfway there. We have to register the Flet lifespan context that we just created, right? We just created it right here. We need to register it with FastAPI. Okay, so this is the connection point with FastAPI, which we called API. Right? Recall, the instantiated version of FastAPI is called API. This is FastAPI. And then FastAPI has built into it router. And in here it's built into FastAPI lifespan context. So this is just a way it's built into FastAPI. We're not making this up. Right. So we just use this async context manager from context lib to set up the lifespan, and then we're assigning it to this lifespan context, which is built into FastAPI. So we've covered step 4. Step 5 is to mount the Flet app on a FastAPI route using built-in FastAPI mount command here. So again, we've called our FastAPI instance API. There's API.mount. So it's the default route. It's the main when you first go to the site from Uvicorn. We're going to mount it as the FastAPI .app main, and we need to create a function for before main to run, where we can set up some things to run before. All right. So let's just create a function here, def before main. We'll receive a page from Flet page. And we'll just set the page. It could be blank, or so you could put a pass here. But I'm going to set the page title to, let's see, Fast API. Plus Flet, something like this. Now we can put that function here before main. Okay, we're on to our last step, which would be to start the application with FastAPI, the asynchronous gateway interface server Uvicorn, which we installed with UV earlier. To be clear, I'll call it app so we don't confuse it with just the FastAPI server. So this will be the Flet app that's mounted as within FastAPI. We'll go Uvicorn, and then it's main app. Ooh, 1200. This was the API endpoint. But now it's serving the FastApp, the Flet application within FastAPI. In the next video, we'll connect the two applications with HTTPX, which will make a GET request to this backend, and we'll get the data from FastAPI into the Flet application. There's a API endpoint here on FastAPI, and you can have it do different things, do all your logic here. And there's a separate Flet application. They're both running on the same FastAPI server. But this, the default route, it's serving up the FastAPI Flet application, the Flet application right here. So we can now connect the Flet app to the FastAPI backend with a HTTPX call to get the data into the Flet app and display it. And we'll show that next.